A warm good evening to all the doctors from the medical fraternity. On behalf of Dr. Reddy's, I, Dr. Snehal Muchala, Team Lead Medical, along with all my HO colleagues, welcome you all to this webinar on new concepts in the management of female pattern of hair loss. This has been conducted by Dr. Reddy's in association with Indian Women Dermatologic Association. On the onset, I wish each and every woman a happy Women's Day. I can say one of the most common problem faced by a woman day in, day out is hair loss. So we take this opportunity to hear from the stalwarts about the diagnosis, treatment, and management of female pattern of hair loss. I would like to say that this is not only a scientific session, but we also have a coffee table discussion with two of the eminent dermatologists, that is Dr. Rashmi Sarkar and Dr. Surabhi Sinha. So without wasting any time, I would now like to introduce and welcome Dr. Rashmi Sarkar to this August gathering. Dr. Rashmi is the President-elect IADVL. She is a Professor of Dermatology, Lady Hardinge Medical College, New Delhi. Prior to this, she was a professor at Maulana Azad Medical College for over 14 years. Dr. Sarkar is a very great academician. She has been an editor for 14 books, penned around 180 articles, and over 75 chapters across various topics in dermatology. She has been the National Secretary of IADVL from 2014 to 2015, Joint Secretary 2012, and has also been President IADVL Delhi State Branch for 2018, former Secretary General ASPCR, and also Chief Founder and President of Pigmentary Disorders Society. Dr. Rashmi has been representing India in many global forums, to mention few: prestigious annual AAD in 2006, 2011, 2012, 13, 14, 15, 16, and 17, the conference of WCD, ICD, WCPDS, ASPCR also. She has also been an active speaker and moderator in many national conferences. To talk about a few achievements, Dr. Rashmi has the Maria Duran Fellow ISD, which she has been awarded with Dr. B.M. Ambady Oration in 2019 and Dr. Madhusudan Das Oration. She has also won the Economic Times Inspiring Dermatologist Award in 2019 and also the Professor V.N. Sehgal Award in 2020. Dr. Rashmi has been an inspiration for many dermatologists across the globe. She is the president of the Indian Women Dermatologic Association and also the vice president of the International Society of Dermatology. We from Dr. Reddy Laboratory are pleased to get associated with her endeavor on disseminating knowledge for dermatologists. So we welcome you, Dr. Rashmi, and I hand over the session to you for your welcome address.
So thank you so much, Dr. Sneha. Are we still getting the echo?
Not exactly, madam.
Okay, fine. So thank you for that introduction. And first of all, good evening, everyone. And let me wish you all a happy Women's Day, both to the women as well as to the men, because we celebrate this Women's Day together. And I think maybe we will take up more of this later because, more people will log in. But I think right now what I'd like to say is, from the Indian Women's Dermatologic Association, ever since its inception, a couple of years back, we have always celebrated International Women's Day. We have celebrated with some kind of community activities, you'll all agree. So what we have done is we talk about skin health for all, that is for different age groups of women, because I'm sure that all of you know that women's skin needs care, whether it is childhood, whether it is adolescence, whether it is middle age, and also elderly age. We are all going to be there sometime. So I think we need to look after our skin, right from the beginning. So we are very glad that we've had a lot of our, partners that is in the pharma industry helping us out with the noble cause. And here I'd like to acknowledge Dr. Reddy's Labs. They've always been in the forefront, to try to put all these things together, this noble mission, whether it is Mr. Goldie, so many other people, there's Payal, there's Snehal, there is Sneha, and other people also who've helped in putting this program together. So a very important part of our Indian Women's Dermatologic Association is definitely community service, looking after skin health, also our leadership program, which you must be aware. The Indian Women's Dermatologic Association, or IWDA, L'Oreal Leadership Program, that is something very important. Here I would like to mention once again that while we are talking about the International Women's Day, or should I say Women's Day, I did give a lecture yesterday about different women dermatologists who have inspired. There is one woman who's played a very important role in our IWDA, and that is Dr. Professor Michelle Verschoor. Okay, Professor Dr. Michelle Verschoor from France. She's been associated with L'Oreal and is a dermatologist of international repute, having worked a lot on photodermatology. She is a person who has believed that women should be empowered, whether it is globally, and has majorly worked on empowering women dermatologists both in Africa, across Asia, North America, and South America. And it is because of her different initiatives that we've come out with the IWDA L'Oreal Leadership Grant. I would like to ask all of you that please avail of it more and more. This is something that is going to be life changing. Some of you out here are aware of that. This is going to be a life changing thing. So please, become members and please avail of this leadership grant. We have many academic programs. This is a series of academic programs which we will be doing. Dr. Reddy's is going to be helping us with that. And the first one is going to be on female pattern hair loss. So we're going to talk about common problems which ail women. The theme for this year is choose to challenge. And challenge means a change actually. So remember that a changed world is an alert world. Okay. So last year there was a huge change in our lives, and that was in the form of COVID-19. Okay. It changed all our professional way, our personal way. What we are having today, it's a changed world. So those of us who were abreast with technology, a part of the change, we were able to carry on. If you're not part of the change, you are not going to be there for very long because you have to be abreast with all the changes. So a changed world is an alert world. And so that is what we as women have to do, choose to challenge actually. And that is where our leadership role comes in the forefront, as has been shown very nicely by COVID-19. All the nations that did well with COVID-19 had women leaders, whether it was New Zealand, whether it was Germany, Taiwan, and the other nations. They played a very pivotal role, in managing COVID well. And that is what we are also going to be doing from IWDA. We're going to sensitize people, and we are going to make the world a better place and a safer place to live in. With that, I'm going to hand it over back again to, I think, Dr. Snehal. Please carry it further. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Rashmi, for these great words. I would now also take this opportunity to introduce and welcome all our panelists for the evening. We have Dr. Richa, who is a consultant and founder of the Twacha Skin Clinic, New Delhi. Dr. Richa's main interest is aesthetic dermatology, lasers in dermatology, and hair disorders. Welcome, Dr. Richa, who's going to moderate the panel. We also have Dr. Sudhavani. Dr. Sudhavani is the professor of associate professor for the Department of DVL, Osmania Medical College, Hyderabad. Dr. Sudhavani has published paper on confluent reticulate papillomatus in British Journal of Dermatology and various publications in national and international journals. Welcome, Dr. Sudha. We also have with us Dr. Yasmin. Dr. Yasmin Bhatt is an associate professor for Department of Dermatology, Venereology and Leprosy at Government Medical College, Srinagar. Dr. Yasmin has authored more than 20 chapters, and she has around 60 presentations as a faculty and more than 35 papers and posters in national and international conferences. Her main area of interest is dermoscopy, trichology, lasers, and skin cancers. Welcome, Dr. Yasmin. We also have Dr. Pooja Arora along with us, who is the Associate Professor, Department of Dermatology and STD, Dr. Ram Manohar Lohia Medical, Loha Hospital, and Postgraduate Medical Education and Research at New Delhi. Dr. Pooja has got more than 40 publications in national and international journals in her name. Welcome, Dr. Pooja. We also have with us Dr. Surabhi Sinha. Dr. Surabhi is the Senior Specialist and Associate Professor, Department of Dermatology and Venereology at Dr. Ram Manohar Lohia Hospital and Atal Bihari Vajpayee Institute of Medical Sciences, New Delhi. Dr. Surabhi has been a co-editor of 3 dermatology textbooks, including Compendium of Dermatology for Examinations. Welcome, Dr. Surabhi. And we also have Dr. Shweta Lina. Dr. Shweta Lina is Associate Professor, Department of Dermatology for All India Institute of Medical Sciences, Patna. Dr. Shweta Lina has done over 40 presentations in international and national conferences and has also written over 13 chapters. Welcome, Dr. Shweta Lina. We also have with us Dr. Sonali. Dr. Sonali is a senior consultant dermatologist at Indraprastha Apollo Hospital, Noida, and also the medical director and for Skin Remedies Clinic and Laser Center at Shahidabad and Noida. Dr. Sonali has also been author for chapters on Book of Chemical Peels. So welcome, Dr. Sonali. And with this short introduction, I would now like to hand over the session to Dr. Richa to take it ahead. Over to you, Dr. Richa.
Thank you very much, Dr. Snehal, and good evening, everybody. Wish you all a very happy Women's Day. Is my screen being shared? I'd just like to confirm.
Yes, it is.
Okay, great. Thank you very much for the introduction, and I'm very, very grateful for this opportunity to host and moderate this session on newer concepts in management of FPHL. With my very, very eminent panelists, and I'm sure we are all going to go back a lot more richer in this very, very common problem. We all see FPHL on a daily basis, and as we were discussing just previously, it's almost the bread and butter of all dermatologists. So before we even begin, let us just get this out of the way. I mean, finally, what is this called? What is this condition going to be called? Do we want to call it FAGA, female androgenetic alopecia, or do we want to call it female pattern hair loss? So what is the confusion about? I mean, Dr. Sudha, help us out. What should we call this?
So in the past, the term androgenetic alopecia is used to denote this condition in both men and women, but the term andro means male and genetic contributes to hereditary contribution. Genetic refers to hereditary. But over the years, a female pattern alopecia was introduced because this word differentiates the difference between men and women of this condition. This word clearly shows that there is a lack of androgen hormonal etiology in women. And also FPHL has been used later. It is also used what are all the conditions affecting this area. So FAGA is clearly depicts that it is female pattern androgenetic alopecia. FPHL, what other conditions also, it denotes other conditions which are affecting this area. But FPHL is the most commonly used word than FAGA. Yeah, personally, I prefer this FPHL word.
I agree with you. The fact is that any androgenetic alopecia kind of picture in this pattern should be called female pattern hair loss, but it's not helping that we're getting more and more, confusing statements from all over. Initially, of course, we used to describe androgenetic alopecia in women because of the androgens, but with more learning, it came to light that the androgens don't always play the main role in the etiopathogenesis. And moreover, to add to the confusion, now we've got cicatricial alopecias in pattern distribution. So we, of course, were very much aware of FFA and CCCA, but there are other etiologies and other manifestations of cicatricial alopecias in pattern distribution. Dr. Yasmin, please throw some light on these kind of alopecias.
Is Dr. Yasmin there?
Yeah, sorry. Okay.
Yeah.
So female pattern hair loss, we know is quite different from the male pattern hair loss or male androgenetic alopecia. Although it is not scattershell, but there are certainly some entities which resemble it because they're also in the pattern distribution, but they have scattershell element in them. There is loss of follicular ostia there, and we have these newer entities like fibrosing alopecia in the pattern distribution, scattershell pattern hair loss, and others, but they can easily be differentiated from the female pattern hair loss because we have the retained hair follicles there, though they are miniaturized, but they produce, and they can, with the help of treatment, it's going to get better and produce a proper terminal hair. We know there is just the appearance of the vellus here due to miniaturization, but it is not scattershell if we treat it at the proper level. Though in the later stages, because of microinflammation and some kind of perifollicular fibrosis, we can even get some mild kind of scarring in case of female pattern hair loss as well. But we should not lose the hope and start management as early as possible in such kind of cases, and they can easily be differentiated from the female pattern loss with the help of newer diagnostic modalities like trichoscopy and other things. But we should be aware of these kind of the entities.
Absolutely, absolutely agreed. So I think we can conclude that we can actually call this entity either FPHL or FAGA as we choose. And do you agree with me, Dr. Yasmin?
No, I guess because it's only 1/3 of the patients have androgen dependent this hair loss in them. If we measure their levels, so only 1/3 will have. So we can't call it androgenetic alopecia. Other thing is the etiology is not only genetic. So we have a multifactorial etiology. We have the environmental factors also contributing to it. Then we have microinflammation. We have the oxidative stress, and so many other conditions like metabolic syndrome and other things. So if we see in these patients, androgens don't play so much of the good role. So the better term is to use the female pattern hair loss, in my opinion.
Oh, right. Okay. Dr. Pooja, Dr. Yasmin has already discussed a few pointers on the pathogenesis, and we do know that although sex hormonal milieu is the main pathogenetic mechanism, but it's not the rule. There are exceptions, and in fact, only 1/3 of the women show abnormal androgen levels. What's new in pathogenesis, and what should we know more about pathogenesis now?
Yeah, so as far as genetics is concerned, as we have in the male androgenetic alopecia, it's not the similar case with FPHL. They have studied a few genes which are very commonly associated with MAGA. So these genes have not found an association with female pattern hair loss. So there are some undefined mechanisms. So as far as the molecular pathways are concerned, we have the WNT catenin beta catenin pathway. So it has recently been seen that vitamin D receptors have been found, and these, along with the WNT, they act as a complex, and they initiate the anagen phase. So this is the new, plus prostaglandins have been found. PGD2 has been found, and it has been found to have an inhibitory role on the hair cycle. So these are the new things in the pathogenesis.
That's very interesting to know, because that definitely is going to have a bearing on the therapies, the newer therapies that we'll be looking at. Dr. Yasmin, you just mentioned something about microinflammation.
Yeah.
I want to know why it's called microinflammation and not just inflammation. What's so special about this?
Yeah, because this inflammation is limited to just the upper portion, the infundibular part of the hair, and it doesn't extend very deep. And it is contributed to the local, like we have the malassezia or pityrosporum, or some kind of oxidative stress, which actually initiates it. And it is just in the superficial. So it doesn't lead to scatterization like in other conditions. But if it remains for a long time, there is formation. If you see in the histopathology also, we can find some stele, or what we call as Perkins bodies later, because of the elastic tissue degeneration. So that is the perifollicular fibrosis because of this. But this microinflammation is going to be there, and oxidative stress is going to increase it. And that's why we have the newer modalities which just have an anti-inflammatory role as well, which can help it there.
Absolutely.
Richa, I think
yes,
I
ma'am.
saw Sonali's hand up. There's a hand up signal.
All right, sure.
Girls, you can use that, ladies. There's a yellow raise hand.
Sure.
I just wanted to add, in the pathogenesis, as far as the genetics is concerned, there's also a non-functioning single nucleotide polymorphism identified in the gene which encodes
Aromatase.
aromatase.
Mhm.
So that is also the new thing which has come up in the pathogenesis.
And especially in female pattern hair loss, right?
I'm talking about
That's-
FPHL.
That's right. That's right. Absolutely. We were talking, Dr. Svetlana, about the role of stress and environmental factor, and this is actually quite pertinent to daily practice, because you will have patients coming in and saying that I had a change of job and I landed up with this thinning of hair. Others will claim that it's the Delhi pollution that's causing the baldness. Then people ask, is there a relationship with my dandruff, and whether smoking causes hair loss? What is your take on this? Does it make sense that all of these are related etiopathogenetically to female pattern hair losses, or is it just fear? Dr. Svetlana, please.
Regarding hairstyling products, I must say I have seen many patients and myself also, if you do hair straightening, so what the chemical trauma and the heat which they use for the straightening of hair, and also the high blow that dryer that creates bubble in the hair sac, which leads to breakage, and it definitely leads to hair loss. I see in my OPD many patients, they say after I did my hair, straightened my hair, so there is up to 4-5 months, they complain a drastic amount of hair loss.
Okay.
So there is a definite correlation regarding this hair styling products. And dandruff also, there you cannot correlate with etiopathogenesis, but when there is increased dandruff, that hair fall also increases.
Dr. Sudha, do you have a take on this, the role of these etiopathogenic factors? I mean, do they really play a role? That is my question. Dr. Sudha?
All these hairstyling products or sun exposure, all these causes, they initiate the inflammation. Maybe they may contribute to this female pattern hair loss also, but actually exactly these are not the exact cause, but they may initiate and they can add on to that condition, underlying condition. Definitely hairstyling products, hair dyes, with these also there is a hair loss. Especially with the styling, breakage of the hair will be there. Long-term or hair dyes, those also leads to hair fall. Right. So these all initiate this condition.
Point taken. Point taken. That means we can tell the patients that because of probably microinflammation or oxidative damage, this will eventually lead to the cascade of female pattern hair loss. That makes sense. Coming to the clinical presentation, Dr. Sonali, we know that there are these three major types: the Olsen pattern, the Ludwig pattern, and in patients who show significant androgenization, we see the typical male pattern also sometimes. What in your clinical practice would be the most common presentation among these, Dr. Sonali?
Ma'am, the most common presentation which I normally see is thinning of the upper biparietal areas and the vertex. Most of the females come with this clinical manifestation. I have yet to see any patient who comes with the Hamilton type of balding seen in women. Okay. Christmas tree pattern I have rarely seen, but the most common presentation with me goes with point number 2.
All right. Okay. Sure. Would any of you differ? Dr. Pooja, what according to you?
Actually, what I see is, definitely the Ludwig pattern is common, but there is a certain subset of patients whom, they present with diffuse hair loss. You don't see the widening of the central partition. So these are the particular subset of patients in whom you need early intervention, because you will not see it unless you do a trichoscopy or a biopsy. So doing a trichoscopy in such cases, you will see the miniaturized hair. So those set of patients with early female pattern hair loss who just complain of diffuse hair thinning without a widening of the central partition. So those particular group have to be looked into.
Sure. Understood. What are the key questions to ask in history taking, Dr. Sonali? What are the, let's just say top three questions you take when a patient arrives with a complaint of, you can't tell sometimes. The patient says, either my hair is falling or my hair is thinning. Which three questions would you ask to quickly try and determine what is the cause? What is the actual diagnosis?
Then point number 1 would be, has the hair loss been gradual or has it started abruptly?
So Nalini, I think just a little louder if you can, I think.
Ma'am, whether the hair loss is gradual or it started abruptly, and question number 2 would be, was there any incidence of similar pattern hair loss in the family, in the female folks, that the patient could visibly encounter? And third would be, of course, the menarche history of menstrual irregularities, history of intake of OCP pills, and abrupt cessation of OCP pills. These would be
that's something that we miss out quite often, actually. Drug history, very important to and to actually and also know that which the brand of OC they are taking, the composition of the OCs, because those that contain progesterone that has got high androgenic potential would have more of these female pattern hair loss symptoms.
And hair loss is also seen in patients who recently discontinue estrogenic OCPs.
Yeah,
manifest with hair loss.
That's right. And upon examination, Dr. Svetlana, what would you like to examine, if at all, other than the scalp? Any other signs you would look for?
I look for any sign of hyperandrogenism like hirsutism, unwanted facial hair, male pattern distribution of hair, then masculine body, then acne form, that is adult onset acne, deepening of voice, and menstrual irregularities. I'll ask regarding those problems also. Obesity, associated obesity, metabolic syndrome association.
Absolutely. So you've actually ruled out all the causes of hyperandrogenism in this simple way by asking leading questions and actually looking at these things. And also point to remember, I think, would be that people, the females who have early onset FAGA, we are seeing, girls in their 20s. So it's very important for us to rule out metabolic syndrome and cardiovascular disease in these patients. The scalp examination.
I want to make a point here.
Sure,
there are patients, the main differential diagnosis here is chronic telogen effluvium.
Yes.
So it is very important to rule out all those factors that are associated with telogen effluvium. And in few patients, we have seen that telogen effluvium uncovers female pattern hair loss.
Absolutely.
Patient presents with diffuse hair loss. You feel it is telogen effluvium, and then you do a trichoscopy, and then you do other investigations, and you see that the patient has early female pattern hair loss. So rule out all those thyroid disease, iron deficiency.
Especially so in acute telogen effluvium. I think acute telogen effluvium very often uncovers female pattern hair loss. Absolutely correct. So when you're examining the scalp, Dr. Pooja, what is it that you look for while examining the scalp? Do you do the pull test? Or what is it? We'll come to trichoscopy later. I just want a clinical picture of what you do to the patient.
So pull test I normally don't do because patients may not like it. So what we see is the widening of the central partition basically, and we look for the thinning of the ponytail, whether it is there, whether the hair thinness, this has decreased or not. So these are the basic points.
I think one very important question that we forget to ask is, what was your baseline level of hair? Because a lot of people will just admit, sometimes people who come with chronic telogen effluvium will say, I've always had thin hair. So genetically, what is the volume of hair? That is also very pertinent. And I think also that we should be examining both the frontal and the occipital areas when we are examining, looking at their scalp, I think.
Most of the time, clinical examination is enough to diagnose this condition. So central thinning of the hair will be there.
Absolutely.
So patients, they will say that my scalp is visible.
Yes.
Can I add one point, ma'am?
Sure.
Ma'am, while this telogen effluvium history we are taking regarding the diffuse hair loss, so we should ask for history of long-term fever, joint pain, and ear examination, because many times SLE patients also, before the clinical presentation and skin, they first complain loss of hair. I have a couple of patients who complained of loss of hair, and there are follicular plugging in ear. And we did a ANA, it was 4+. And later on, patient had a systemic symptoms on follow-up.
Sure.
So we should.
I would also like to add one point, as you mentioned, of the pull test. See, we should do it from the frontal or parietal area as well as the occipital area, because if it is positive, it is going to give us a clue about the telogen effluent, because most of the patients have female pattern hair loss associated with chronic telogen effluent or even sometimes acute. So if the full test is positive, we may have the added telogen effluent as well, and especially from the occipital area, which is usually going to spare the female pattern hair loss.
That's right. That's right. And I'm going to hold you there, Dr. Yasmin. You're the authority on trichoscopy. So in fact, I have picked this picture from your recent article. So tell us about trichoscopy. There will be many learners of trichoscopy among the audience, I'm sure. And please
Yeah,
let us
I
know.
think the trichoscopy is the main diagnostic thing which helps to diagnose very nicely the female pattern hair loss. Otherwise, we are not going to diagnose it in a proper way, because there are so many other associated conditions like telogen effluent, and so many other, like patients can have hypothyroidism and other things that may lead to hair loss. But female pattern hair loss is, I think, always caught up with the trichoscope. So the most important thing is, because we know that there's miniaturization, so the hair that comes out is very thin. So we will have hair shafts of different diameters. So we can have very thin hairs, like they are vellus, then we can have intermediate hairs or thick hairs. So once we are going to examine a portion of this hair with the trichoscope, so the hair shafts, if we look at them, we could find the hair diameter diversity. So we'll have different this thickness of the hair. So if the presence of more than 20% of the hair shaft diameter diversity in a particular field gives a clue to the this female pattern hair loss, then we know only because the hair is miniaturized, so just one hair comes out of the follicular unit, not usually 2 or 3 what we see. So we'll have single hair coming out of the follicular units. The third thing is, at some places the hair follicle even doesn't grow any hair, so we can have even focal atrichia. And in early stages, we may have, because of the microinflammation, we may have the brown peripylar sign. That's a very diagnostic clue in the non-polarized mode. That's except for the hair dyeing, which may give a false peripylar sign. It's exclusively seen in case of female pattern hair loss. And lastly, in later cases, we may see even yellow dots, but they are because of, again, the miniaturization and accumulation of the sebum there, that may appear as a yellow dot, which is entirely different from that of the alopecia areata, which contains mainly keratin. And based on this, we have certain criteria which were given by the Rakuska.
Yes.
We have like 2 major, and they're basically these criteria only, these things which we are just mentioning.
Yeah.
So, but they have formed the criteria based on these. If we have 2 major criteria, it is entirely diagnostic of this, or 1 major and 2 minor. So we can clearly say that yes, this patient has female pattern hair loss.
And all of these findings will be more on the frontal area.
Yeah. One more thing is very important. We can't just do it in the frontal area. We should do it in the parietal areas as well as in the occipital area, because again, we can rule out this telogen effluent. And most important thing is diffuse unpatterned this alopecia, androgenetic alopecia. It's a very important thing later on if we have to take the patient for hair transplant and other things that may also be ruled out with trichoscopy.
Dr. Svetlana, do you ever take your patient for biopsies? And
for pattern hair loss, I never do biopsy. I do for cicatricial alopecia, and in some cases of alopecia areata. No, not for these cases.
Never. Dr. Sonali, I'd like to know from you, you run a very busy clinic. Do you make it a point to have a photographic, a sequence of photography for your patients who visit you?
Yes, initially at the baseline, and 3 to 4 months post start of medicines.
Do you have certain parameters of photography that you follow?
Normally I take frontal view, parting the central hairline, and take the frontal view and the upper parietal view of the patient. And sequentially, the patients are followed at 3 months interval.
Absolutely. Okay.
Dr. Richa, you have
Yes,
about 7 minutes. Why? Because I'm asking, because maybe treatment.
Sure. We'll move on, ma'am. We'll move on. Right. So I think we'll skip the severity index. It's already very complicated. I was hoping to get an answer on a simplified severity index, but I don't think there's any way out today because it's really very, very complicated. Let's run quickly through the lab tests. I would like to go to Dr. Pooja. Dr. Pooja, please let us know what are the lab tests that one absolutely must order when one sees a conflicting case of FPHL and CTE.
So serum testosterone, I do the total testosterone levels, then the thyroid, the hemoglobin, the ferritin levels, and the prolactin levels. So these are the basic ones. And then depending on the other pointers, we go for further tests. So
Alright.
serum testosterone also not in all cases, unless there are certain signs of hyperandrogenism, then calculating the free androgen index. So if there are no signs of hyperandrogenism, then I'm basically going for only the iron studies, thyroid profile, to look for coexisting, and
So
vitamin D
practically
levels.
speaking, yeah. So practically speaking, you really don't need laboratory studies for every patient. Am I right about that?
The iron
Only-
studies, the thyroid profile and vitamin D levels are done in all cases.
In
I
all
do these in my
All right.
patients.
Okay. And is there any screening test you can think of, Dr. Yasmin?
Yeah, we can do like two of these are like total testosterone levels. They may help in the free androgens, and prolactin levels. They should be used as a screening test
Screening
because
test.
they may help in the hyperandrogenism, so that we can later on give treatment accordingly.
Dr. Pooja, you mentioned the ferritin levels, and what is that level that we must strive for? Because there's a lot of controversy, as you know, about this. So how is it relevant to the final outcome of FPHL?
So it is, the data is very contradictory. Some people have taken it as 40, some have taken it as 70. So what I do is I take a cutoff of 40. If the patient has less than that, I'll do iron supplementation. So basically there are no studies that have compared the outcome of iron supplementation on the hair regrowth. So we don't really know the cutoff, it depends, but majority of the clinicians are taking it as 40.
40, yes, exactly. I agree with that as well. The differential diagnosis, Dr. Sonali, like we have already discussed this, I think these are the main CT. Would you like to add something to this list?
I think the list is complete.
All right, okay, sure. And we have already learned that, trichoscopy can tell us also. Let's just now move on to the counseling bit. This is the tough part. How do you break the bad news and the good news, Dr. Sonali? What do you tell the patient? How do you counsel?
Counseling is important because the patient has to be prepared for taking a long course of supplements and whatever medicines we are going to give the patient. At least 8 months, 10 months or 1 year of the treatment is warranted. And the patient has to be counseled that there would not be any abrupt cessation of application of topicals. Because as we all know that if say for minoxidil is abruptly stopped, the patient might have aggravated hair fall. So it is going to be just like a plan for a chronic disease. The patient has to follow up and she has to understand what the disease is all about.
Absolutely. And these days, a lot of patients are taking protein supplements. They're going to the gym, working out. So, Dr. Sudha, are there any specific protein supplements that they must avoid? Are you aware of any such protein supplements that you would say, no, these have anabolic steroids or the likes or androgenic
They
potential?
have to avoid all these anabolic
All
steroids.
of them, yeah.
All those.
Okay.
Whey
But
protein.
they have to take a good protein supplement
Good protein
for
supplement.
the hair.
So you would
So I
recommend
recommend
dietary
to
protein?
take lentils, legumes, more of legumes, paneer, like that.
Any
Yeah,
food that-
whey they should avoid whey proteins because
protein,
they
they
are
have
seen
that.
to have be containing the anabolic steroids, so that should be avoided. But rest of the proteins they should take.
Patient is on whey protein right now. Whoever is going to the gym.
They are mostly on whey protein, agreed. Yeah.
Exactly.
So how about the diets to avoid? We know what to tell them to eat. What is it that people often ask? What is it that I must avoid? Do you recommend something to avoid?
So always I say avoid junk food. Easy to say.
Yeah, easy to say.
Easy
I
to
think
say.
avoiding soy would also have some, I think, relevance. It having phytoestrogens, perhaps. Am I right? In females? Okay.
You're
All
right.
right. Okay. Great. So now let's move on quickly to the topical treatments. And we know minoxidil is the approved and very, very effective treatment. Just let me know if any of you use more than 2%, how, where, and how frequently.
I use straight away. I start 5%
You
usually.
start 5%.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Once
Even
a day?
not FDA approved. Once daily application is more comfortable for the patients to apply. So I start 5%, 1 ml.
And do you
At
face
night.
any irritation on the scalp because of the 5%?
5% usually when propylene glycol based one, sometimes people may complain of irritation. So I prescribe home farm.
Okay, all right.
Foam causes less irritation when compared to these alcohol-based or propylene glycol-based minoxidil formulations.
Has any of the panelists ever tried more than 5% for female pattern hair loss?
No.
Never. Okay, so how long do you recommend the treatment when the patient asks? You're going to say it's going to be lifelong? Do you taper down? Do you, stagger it then later on?
At least for a year, the patient has to be very meticulous in the application. And once we find that there are substantial improvement in the hair growth, I usually taper it down. Like application twice, alternate days, then twice in a week. Most of my patients stay on twice weekly regimen for a long time.
All right. And what is your take, Dr. Pooja, on the different vehicles of minoxidil, the formulations? Some are aqueous and others contain alcohols.
So we have the solution formulation that contains propylene glycol for the stability and penetration of the minoxidil. And then we have the foam preparation that has sterile alcohol and other components. So the foam preparation is better since the penetration is better, plus it dries quickly. So it doesn't spread in the peripheral areas. So foam is definitely preferable to a solution.
Yes.
One more thing is like to increase the compliance by the patient, because sometimes patient comes, give me something different, but we know that the treatment is the same. So we can just alternate the different vehicles, like sometimes solution, then sometimes foam, sometimes even gels can be given so that the patient is compliant.
But what is the difference in the efficacy? One understands that the non-alcohol ones are more non-irritating, but is there a difference in the efficacy? Because the presence of alcohol or propylene glycol would increase the contact period of minoxidil, isn't it, on the scalp, and therefore the effect would be superior.
That is definitely the point, but just for the patient's sake, because most of the patients leave their treatment, they say it's doctor is giving me again the same thing and same thing.
That's
so
right.
sometimes we have to be a bit tricky and alternate it.
The irritation with minoxidil is a very practical problem that is faced by those who use it. So I think it is better to ensure compliance. Moreover, another point I want to make here is those who are not responding to 2%, they should be switched to 5%, and those who are not responding to the same concentration will not respond in future. So non-responders will not turn into responders at the same concentration, and those who are already responding will not develop resistance.
And more, some patients have the tendency of rubbing minoxidil to a greater extent inside the scalp that further leads to irritant potential. So it's always better to counsel the patient that it can be gently massaged, or even if it is not massaged, it is just going to get inside the scalp.
Understood.
And people who are having the irritation, an adequate time of 6 hours, 4 to 6 hours is adequate for, washing it off.
Correct. How about these several, mixtures, the combinations of minoxidil? Dr. Svetlana, what is your experience with minoxidil and Amanexil? Would you advise it, and how often do you write it?
No, I don't write this combination. I write only minoxidil.
You only write minoxidil. And how about this minoxidil plus tretinoin plus azelaic acid? Any of the panelists prefer these combinations?
Yeah, I think again, just a point here, if we, I was just talking about this trichoscopy, that can give us a clue that there is a bit of fibrosis also, what I was saying, like if there's a white peripyral sign later showing that there's a kind of perifollicular fibrosis. In those cases, we can add the minoxidil with Amanexil or minoxidil with tretinoin formulations, because they are going to reverse the fibrosis a bit because of the increased vasodilatation. So that makes a scientific point in those patients.
That's an excellent point. Agreed. Yes.
It also increases the sulfotransferase activity in case the patient is has less amount of that enzyme. So to turn a minoxidil non-responder to a minoxidil somewhat responder.
All right.
Tretinoin itself acts on anagen phase also. It prolongs anagen phase.
Yes, but it causes a lot of irritation. That is the biggest problem.
Better drug penetration will be there, but the results are good only apart from this irritation part.
Yes, that's right.
What I'm aware of is minoxidil with the combination of tretinoin is available only in 2%. So we have to keep that in mind that we don't have a 5%. We're using a low percentage when using this.
Among the other topical treatments, topical finasteride, of course, has come out as on tops as winner with more and more, more and more data coming in every day, and several good articles vouching for its efficacy in female pattern hair loss. What is your experience, Dr. Sonali? Do you prescribe topical finasteride?
No, ma'am, I'm not very fond of this combination.
Okay. My other panelists, any of you like the combination?
I like this combination, minoxidil plus topical finasteride. It gives better results, and there are several studies which showed that this combination is effective when compared to minoxidil alone.
Yes. Agreed. It's one of my favorite combinations as well, and very nice to even maintain later on. Absolutely. Now coming to all the other things that we've been prescribing over the years without real efficacy. I mean, without real efficacy data, they've been pharmacy promoted. But what's your take on Capexil, for instance, Dr. Yasmin? What do you have to say about this?
Yeah, basically these are the peptide combinations. Somehow they have been seen to increase the nutrition in the dermal papilla cells, and somehow they have an anti-inflammatory role as well. So they just promote a bit of growth by proliferation of the cells, providing the adequate nutrition, and so they can definitely help. But I think alone they are not sufficient. I mean,
No doubt.
Yeah.
No
All
doubt.
these are adjuvant treatments. Along with minoxidil, we can add this. There is a one study where this Capexil, Procapil, and Redensil molecule, this combination showed almost equal results or better efficacy when compared to minoxidil also. So when people are not tolerating minoxidil or minoxidil is not working, we can try this combination of these three.
I beg to differ. Many of my patients.
I'm sorry to play a spoil sport again. I guess, second call,
Just ma'am, if you allow 5 minutes, I think we can be done in that much time, ma'am. Just coming to the systemics. Yes, ma'am. Right, so let's just move on to the systemic treatments. Oral minoxidil, Dr. Sonali, do you prescribe it? Have you ever prescribed oral minoxidil?
No, ma'am, I've not prescribed, but I've studied. There are various studies in the literature which show very good results with 0.25 milligram of oral minoxidil. But in India, what tablet which we get is 5 milligram. So as of now, I have not prescribed to any of the patients except.
Neither have I. Has any of the panelists tried oral minoxidil?
I have not tried, but 2.5 mg tablet is available now in India.
Yeah.
Okay,
2.5 mg is
but
available.
Still, it has to be cut into
You have to give
1/10.
Half tablet we can give low dose minoxidil. Half tablet is effective.
Yeah, so it seems promising. We are waiting maybe oral minoxidil. For my only concern is the hypertrichosis that could become a bigger problem. The anti-androgens, there is definitely a role for anti-androgens, and my favorite among this list that I have said is flutamide. What do you ladies say about these? Dr. Pooja?
Yeah, flutamide would be the most effective, but I'm a little skeptical of using it because of the toxicity. So I would go for finasteride, though one is not able to predict response. There are patients who don't just respond to finasteride. So obviously with patients with hyperandrogenism, I would go for an OCP with a combination maybe of spironolactone or drospirenone.
Dr. Svetlana, do you have anything to add to the anti-androgens?
I use finasteride in post-menopausal women.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. But you have to remember to ask the family history for breast cancer. I think that's very, very important when prescribing finasteride. Excellent. I think we are just having to rush, but let's go through any experience with LLLT among my panelists.
Yeah, I will just like to add, I'm not using it, but it is a very good role, basically based on the principle of paradoxical hypertrichosis, what we found in the routine laser hair treatment of the hirsutism. So this is something which is FDA approved and can be very easily used by the patient even at home in the form of combs or helmets or hoods, and can be used alternate days. And it has a scientific this mechanism that it stimulates the mitochondrial and ATPase levels are increased, and that in turn helps in proliferation of the stem cells and these dermal papilla cells, and helps in regaining of the androgen back. This anagen here. and may prove to be a very good treatment for some of the patients.
Correct. PRP is a favorite. I think a lot of us are doing PRP. Dr. Sonali, what is your regime of doing PRP? How often do you perform the PRP for your patients? Is it every 2 weeks or 4 weeks, 3 weeks?
No, ma'am, every month for
Every month.
4 to 5 sessions.
Mhm.
And the patients, once the hair growth comes, I just maintain the patient to have PRP every 3 months for some time, and then follow it up at 6 monthly or 1 yearly intervals.
And do you use the double spin method, or do you use a ready-made
And
tube?
separator tube.
Okay, all right, you use a separator tube. How about microneedling? Does my panel have any experience? Dr. Pooja, about do you use a mesotherapy, microneedling treatment?
No, I'm not using.
Sure. Okay.
I use microneedling in many patients who can't afford PRP. By 1.5 mm derma roller, you can give good results.
And what do you add to it?
No, ma'am, it is just microneedling.
Simply microneedling. You don't put something on the surface so that it penetrates better?
In patients who can't afford, I just do it a derma roller with 1.5 mm, and there are very good results.
Excellent.
Microneedling can be combined with PRP also.
And
Absolutely.
patients who can't afford PRP, microneedling is a very good alternative.
Just one question: do you activate your PRP, or do you put an activator? Do you use calcium chloride, or do you just use it plain? You don't need to activate. Okay, sure. I think. All right. Final question to Dr. Yasmin. Tell us about hair transplantation. What is the ideal candidate for hair transplant?
Yeah, ideal candidate is one who has more of the thinning in the frontal and the vertex areas, and the donor area is quite good in the occipital area. We should evaluate the donor area so that there is no associated to lesion effluvium or DUPA, as I mentioned, diffuse unpatterned androgenetic alopecia, because those patients are going to respond in a very poor way. And for those patients who have used treatment for quite a long time and they are not getting good response, so hair transplantation is definitely a very good option for them.
What procedure do you prefer? FUE?
FUE, follicular unit extraction, because it's going to be very safe, and cosmetically also it's very good for the female patients.
Great. So let's just quickly rush through these case scenarios. This is a 22-year-old with grade 1. What would you like to do for her? Do you want to start her on minoxidil? It's going to be a long journey with minoxidil for her. Would you go with supplementation?
Yeah. We'll start minoxidil first, but at the same time we'll evaluate her. If she has any kind of signs of hyperandrogenism or something, maybe we can even add OCPs or even aldactone and other things. And maybe even peptides or oral supplementation. We have to evaluate for serum ferritin and other things, and iron supplementation and other supplementation will also definitely help.
How about this case, Dr. Pooja, 56-year-old, Hamilton, almost, going out?
So here is a clear-cut sign of hyperandrogenism. So evaluation is very important here. Doing a serum testosterone and androstenedione and DHEAS would be important here. And
She's
looking for other
56
signs of
remember.
She's postmenopausal, so we can easily give finasteride here.
Yeah, we can give her finasteride.
Finasteride and topical minoxidil.
Finasteride along with topical minoxidil.
Treatment would be the minoxidil and finasteride.
And this hirsutism acne overweight girl who's 28. Yes, you already mentioned the entire anti-androgen.
Yeah, can we use spironolactone with Ocipil for anti-androgenism, the young girl.
Right. Great. So I think we've had a great session, although in a bit of a rush. This is a huge topic. My apologies, Dr. Rashmi ma'am, because it is just so vast. And thank you so much, panelists. I'm sure all of us have learned a lot.
Part 2, if you have things left, that's good.
Yeah.
When you have things, that means there is an interest in the topic, and we can always come back to that again.
Absolutely, will do, ma'am. Will do. Thank you so much, panelists, for your precious time. Handing over to Dr. Snehal now for the rest of the program. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Dr. Richa, for this really great panel discussion on female pattern of hair loss. Could we now move ahead with the next session, which is over a coffee discussion with Dr. Rashmi and Dr. Surabhi Sinha.
Thank you, Dr. Snehal. A very good evening and a very happy Women's Day to all the lovely women who've logged in, and to all the lovely women in the men's lives who've logged in as well. I hope I'm audible.
Yeah.
Okay. So IWDA, in association with Dr. Reddy's, has started a series of virtual coffees, but real conversations. So, and since today is International Women's Day, what better way to start the series than with our own IWDA president, Professor Dr. Rashmi Sarkar. Ma'am, of course, needs no introduction. I'll be sharing my screen 1 second. So we all know her pretty well. I'll just share my screen. Is my screen visible to all?
Yes.
All right. So we all know Dr. Rashmi Sarkar, Professor Dr. Rashmi Sarkar, and yet every time I introduce ma'am, she's managed to add one new feather to her cap. So, so this time, she, of course, ma'am is professor at LHMC New Delhi, but she is also the president-elect IADVL 2021. She's president of the Indian Women's Dermatologic Association and PDS. She's been a textbook author. She's authored so many chapters. We've all read her books and chapters, but she's also a mentor. I have had the good fortune of being mentored by her. She's a leadership guru. Her thoughts on leadership and women in leadership positions are very well received across all age groups. She's a movie critic. She writes lovely reviews. A lot of us must have read them as well. She's a singing star, and believe it or not, she's even been invited for penning the script of an OTT show. So, ma'am, a very warm welcome to you and a very happy Women's Day to you as well.
Thank you so much, Surbhi, and the same to you and all the.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. So since now it's all virtual coffee, you can please, all of you can get your cups of coffee, and we'll be sharing with some, ma'am will be sharing some tidbits of her life, some experiences for all of us here.
So this is
ma'am has
this is environmental friendly, you know.
Lovely. So ma'am, so quickly starting off, can you tell us something about your early life? You were born and brought up in Chandigarh, and some qualities of your parents that have stayed with you, have stood you in good stead throughout.
Yeah, so thank you, Surbhi. And that picture, I'm the one, you know, the older one, not the younger one. The younger, very cute baby in the center is my sister, you know, Urmi. And I'm the one, you know, the tall one, you know, on the side. So I think my early life in Chandigarh was an idyllic life that I would like all our children to have, you know, especially in the COVID times, because we stayed in the PGI campus, Sector 24 in Chandigarh. And those were large, you know, open spaces between large houses where you had, you know, woods, little woods from where you could go from one house to another. And there were large lawns and gardens with, you know, trees of mangoes and locards and other things. And you could steal them, you know, from each other's houses. That was the best part. It was always nicer to steal them. They tasted better rather than going through the gates. And the best part was you could cycle, you know, around the sectors, you know, on your cycle with the two, what should I say, the two supporters first, and then the proper cycle.
Yeah.
And you could also walk across the woods to another, you know, friend's house to play in the evenings and pick up those Enid Blyton books. I had a friend, I could not buy so many, but I practically picked up the entire series of Enid Blyton's, Agatha Christie, Nancy Drew, Hardy Boys, Amar Chitra Katha. It was an exchange offer, you know, 3 Amar Chitra Kathas for 1, you know, Enid Blyton, and we often cheated. And the bus, you know, near the house. So we would carry those books, hide them. And also it was all about reading storybooks. Little bit of Doordarshan that came in.
Yeah.
The black and white Doordarshan, when all the neighbors would come on Sunday to your house. And you would not be able to watch the Sunday movie, but they would. You would be making tea and, you know, orange squash. So that's what the childhood was, very rich and, you know, simple, very rich in ideologies, because it was very academic all over.
True. Of course, ma'am. Then from Chandigarh.
Yeah, I think you mentioned about 2 qualities of my parents. I think very important, one thing that I learned from both my father and my mother was that humility. Humility is very important. You know, it will help you throughout your life, you know, whether you are in the beginning as well as the middle stage, even as in a leadership position, it helps you. Second thing, very important, is how you make other people feel is very important.
True.
Try to place yourself in the other person's shoes. We are often wrong, actually, even as a leader or even as an older person, you may be sometimes not quite right. But if you just place yourself in the other person's shoes, suddenly you feel what the other person is feeling. You can always make amends. You can always say sorry. So please make people feel good, about themselves.
True. Lovely. So of course, ma'am, from then, Chandigarh, you moved on to New Delhi. And I think you came on to Lady Hardinge, and you've recently completed the Golden Triangle. You started off with Hardinge, then Safdarjung, then Mamsi, and recently you shifted back to Lady Hardinge, not hostel, but yeah, Lady Hardinge.
Yeah.
So we can see a very young sir and ma'am there in their hostels. So how does it feel now after so many years? Back to Hardinge.
Yeah, it is a golden triangle, Surbhi, but not exactly something that I wanted to do, because changing places is fine when you're a younger person, You look at it as a career promotion. But later on, sometimes you don't want to do it and it just happens. You have to do it, So this golden triangle, it started off with Lady Hardinge Medical College. Lady Hardinge Medical College, I loved and all, because after the atmosphere in PGI is very, very, very strict.
Okay.
And Lady Hardinge was that way, a little more chilled out, good in knowledge, but chilled out. So I loved it. And, I made some very good friends there. And VMMC or Safdarjung, part of my life, I joined as a specialist, back to teaching. Again, I met some seniors and all who were really good there. I could do, both academics as well as, look after a very large chunk of patients. Safdarjung has a very large number of patients. And it was a transition stage when I was going international. MAMC has been a very important part of my life, because what has happened is, one thing is that Surbhi, I've met many people, many students like many of you.
Yes, ma'am.
I've seen them, gradation up to, the levels of maybe associate professors and professor. That was the give back that I got.
Yeah.
And it saw a very significant part of my profession. It will always remain, But at the same time, it also has certain memories which are very, very, very bitter towards the end. So for me, it has always been one step forward, two steps backward. So although I'm back to the place, which I really loved, Lady Hardinge, but again, it is like going back at a stage when you're senior, you don't really want to make such a transition, So that is something, but nevertheless, it's good, it has made me meet a lot of people and learn a lot.
True. Like you mentioned, ma'am, so one USP of yours is that you started and you were an international name pretty early in your career, relatively speaking. You were an established international name. You started off with an International Society of Dermatology scholarship, I presume. Not only that, I think from what I know of you, you've managed and you've sustained a lot of friendships out of those international appearances that you made. So you have Dr. Vanji, Dr. Wendy Roberts here, and a lot many friends of yours have sustained over the years, these international friends as well. What is your secret?
I think, there's no real secret there, Surbhi, but I would just say that I was just myself. I was not following anybody. I think I was spontaneous. I said, what was there in my heart. Like I wanted to meet, some of them I met by accident, like in the case of Vanji, we just met very naturally.
Okay.
But the others, I set up a meeting actually.
Oh.
And I have set up a meeting. They were very professional. We met there, but I think I made it very clear that I'm out here, this is what I have in mind and I want to discuss this particular thing. Okay. And I was not very secretive about it. I was very upfront. I was, I said exactly what was in my mind. I think so there they could make out that maybe this is a value-based person who can be a friend. There's a difference, between a friend and a follower. Yeah. To be a friend, you have to be through highs and lows. Sometimes the person you're following, Surbhi, may not be doing so well professionally. There are times.
Yeah.
Are you besides that person? Even then you will. Yeah. With a friend, you are going to be there always. A friend or somebody you really admire.
True.
But for a person, if you're just following professionally, you will just find, go through the highs and lows. So I think that is very important.
That's right. Yeah. Another role that you've beautifully played, ma'am, is as a mentor. So here we see some of your mentees, I think 10 years ago, and this is recent, this is Anupam's wedding. So what is most striking is that you've actually sustained this relationship also, and so fruitfully, you make it a point to be there with them in their special days. And so how do you manage to, fit in those 48 hours in those 24-hour days?
These are very cute, actually, the photos, because if you look at them, they don't seem as if they have, aged much.
Yeah.
Anupam has, of course, lost a little bit of weight here and there, but he's looking cute,
He's lost his puppy fat.
Indrashish is looking pretty much there, but he seems a man of the world now. If you look at them, very suited, booted, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's the best part of seeing them, evolve. I think the best part here is I met them, not through somebody. I met them on their own. They had come from different ways. They had just approached that, we want to do things together. That was the beauty of the thing. They are not known people. Like you people have been students once. They are not.
Yeah.
So it's a relationship I have acquired on the way. It was a two-way process. I have kept in touch, and so have they. Those who have stayed in touch, I have seen them evolve, from a postgraduate, maybe a first year or a second year, to a senior resident, to a consultant, getting married. Some of them have had children also.
Yeah.
And who knows, maybe grandchildren part also I might be able to see. So what happens is that I have seen them evolve, but I think these are acquired relationships on the way, and you have to build them up. You have to keep it going. These days you come with a very short shelf life.
True.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
With the visual medium there, with all the children,
Absolutely.
there's a short shelf life.
Yeah.
So you come with certain natural relationships in your life, but the acquired ones, you have to work extra hard, work an extra mile, walk an extra mile. That is important. As they have grown, I have given them space. I've seen them as students, but now when they've grown up, sometimes they may even get quite irritated. And then, you have to think that, okay, my son can get irritated sometimes, and I take it in my stride, why not them, I'm sure, Surbhi, that, that you can get, irritated, and then you have to then put them yourself in that mold, maybe as a mother or something. I think that's a beautiful thing. So when you have a relationship, walk an extra mile.
You do that pretty well, ma'am. Now your role as a leader. So I think this is going to be one of the most important roles in your life for the next couple of years. Just two quick questions. Do you think women leaders really have it tougher? And do you think that the glass ceiling is actually just a glass ceiling?
Yeah, actually, this is a question. I don't know whether one should tell the truth or one should not tell the truth, but I guess you can tell the truth. Women leaders have it tougher because I think naturally you do have more of a balancing act. Men also have a balancing act, by the way, because nowadays a lot of men are pitching in, into the homework. So it is now lean in together.
True.
Those families do well when the men and women, are working well together. So women have it tougher because, what happens is, one is we have biological setbacks. It is not in our hands, There are times you get married. There is a time when, there's pregnancy. There are children who are small and they are naturally, your morale is very low that time.
Yeah.
Unless somebody pulls you out because you see your contemporaries doing well.
Yeah.
So that is the tough part, biological breaks in your life. And secondly, why it is tough is all said and done, as a leader, it's pretty much lonely at the top, whether you believe it or not, because what happens is, it's not that you don't have women around you. There are so many lovely women, today what happens is there are so many lovely women, no longer is it that you're standing alone. But what happens is they are not very politically inclined. You understand? By politically inclined, I don't mean in a bad way. What I mean is they are not really
in the thick of things.
Street smart.
Yeah.
See, you have to be very good in your work administratively. There is a certain street smartness, which all is being taught in the schools and all nowadays. They let the children be. That's not something that we were taught in our time.
Yeah.
Okay. So that is where, you are very much lonely. So you have to be much more of an observer, than others. You have to prove yourself again and again.
Yeah.
And is the ceiling really a glass ceiling? The glass ceiling does exist. And all said and done, although there is a lot of equality at the top, where academic posts are there. Okay. It's not so in the administrative post because it is not just a glass ceiling, it's much more than that. Maybe it's a plaster of Paris ceiling. Yeah. And in order to break that, Surbhi, I think it has to be more participatory. We can't say that there's a glass ceiling and we won't. We have to participate. We have to come in front. And the more you will participate, the more the chances are that it is going to break. So, and when we are there, we cannot say that, okay, now we have children at home. We have, our in-laws, we have to look after so-and-so. You have to be there. You're there in the battlefield. You just have to get going, So then you have to do things like travel. You have to be there at odd hours.
Yeah.
You're not a woman, you're gender neutral as a leader.
True.
So
Yeah.
we only will break the glass ceiling, if we have to do it, and do it by more participation.
Correct. Now, I'm not sure if many of us know this, but ma'am is going to be the president of IITville in its golden jubilee year. So huge responsibility. Does it add to the pressure?
Yeah, it does add to the pressure, Surbhi, because whenever I have, done something, there's always been a challenge added to everything. Like, for example, I had decided that, okay, 2020 I'll contest. The moment I contested, lo and behold,
Coronavirus came in.
yeah, coronavirus was there. So it was totally strategizing a new kind of, contesting for the election.
Yeah.
If you look at it,
True.
the campaign was, should I or should I not? As many of you, that should I put my thing or should I not put it? Because will people be in that frame of mind to receive it?
Yeah.
So it was a new challenge. We did it through a very different platform, but yes, we did it. It was important. Similarly, I was just about, getting my goals together when I realized that, it's going to be the golden jubilee year. So there is added pressure.
Yeah.
I worked with pressure, but I'm sure that, like all other things, definitely if we can bring two good things, to the forefront, we should not be aiming for 20 large things, but maybe 2 or 3 very good things. I'm sure, then, and I do want to, build up, more leaders.
Okay.
That is something that has been a mission. It will always continue, whether I'm in IITville, whether I'm not. So that is going to be important.
All right. Ma'am, just quick pointers from you. You've given us so many already, but there are some new, budding dermatologists. So any pointers for them? Maybe a couple of them?
Slow. Yeah, just take it slow.
That's very important advice.
Take it slow. The hare and the tortoise story, is something that is important even today, the hare and the tortoise. And, ultimately the tortoise did make it.
Yeah.
Nowadays, what we did not have, a lot of people have is the communications. Yeah. They have increased. So what would happen by letters is now happening within a fraction of seconds when the world is changing. So you have a lot more at your disposal. But what happens is when there is a quick rise, remember, you have to maintain the plateau, because what happens after a rise? It's always a downward trend.
Yeah.
So you don't want that sharp fall. To maintain that plateau, you have to go slow, enjoy that, take it in, and then go a little fast after you're 5 years down. Observe people, do it well. Don't be in a rush. Play as a team player, because a team player is much more fun. And ultimately, after leadership, you're kind of, on the other side of the plateau. You will be going, you will remain relevant. So take it slow. Don't be in a rush. If you have not done a fellowship, nothing matters. You can do a fellowship later in life. This is for all the people who have not got scholarships and fellowships. You will get them later in your life. Don't worry, don't give up.
That's very valuable advice, ma'am. Now, your professional career aside, I have seen your fun side, and it's a very, very fun side that you have. Very witty, very fun, very social person. And it's lovely to see you unwinding, not just with your dermatologist friends, but your friends from school. I have to admit, I am not in touch with so many of my school friends like I see you. How important is it for you to unwind, and how do you manage?
I think, Surbhi, it's very important to have that part of your life, because as I said, all these achievements that we have are going to be very short-lived. One thing I learned from my parents, that this is all going to be short-lived. I am planning to do something for the next year, but before that is going to be over.
Yeah.
What will live is, probably the few relationships that I have built, have I nurtured them? How have I behaved with them, during the time when I was successful? I've learned from some of the leaders. They were very good in maintaining their relations even then. There is a little change because you become professional, but you don't become a different person.
Yeah.
So you have to maintain that also. You have to maintain it, of course, with certain things. You have to be fair also.
Yeah.
But your friends, your school, some of your friends, maybe from childhood, or even middle level life, they are the ones who will tell you the truth sometimes about you, which even you don't know. I may think, I'm the best, but probably,
Reality check.
I'm doing things which are not right,
Yeah.
maybe I'm being somebody, who's not just right. So
Yeah.
they do not have that inhibition. So some of them are able to tell you that, Rashmi, you're just not getting this right, you have to slow down, buddy,
Yeah.
So I think it's important to maintain that fun size, maintain your sense of humor, because we're going to need it a lot during the leadership session. Because when things don't go right, we just have to laugh at ourselves. We can't
Absolutely.
do anything, So we're going to need a lot of wit, more wit.
Right, ma'am. Okay, so driving a successful woman is a man. There's a saying. So do you think this is true or do you think this is false?
Yeah, definitely. You have to have a very supportive family. Your husband has to be very supportive, because it's good if he's in the same profession. Like I have, my husband is in pediatrics, because I think one is that they understand, what are the issues of the medical profession.
Yeah.
And, if they are doing something well themselves, they would definitely like, even you to be successful.
Yeah.
So definitely you need a supportive, husband, or if not a husband, you have to have a supportive boyfriend, because I'm sure things may have changed now, even if you're not married, you have to have that support system. That also includes your in-laws, Surbhi, because let me tell you, your life is spent less with your parents. Probably the larger part is with your in-laws. You're marrying a whole family.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So I think what chemistry you develop with them, sometimes some part is in your hand, which you can do. Some part, maybe it's an individual nature everybody has. But we have to make it work. If they respect you as a professional, give you that space, it is very important. So you have to ingrain it in your in-laws, ingrain it in your children, and also your domestic help.
Yeah, very, very important.
Yeah.
So we often say, don't worry that your children don't listen to you, worry that they're always watching you. So I have seen Abhik, grow up from this cutie pie to this vice president of his school. He's taken up some, very good qualities from you. He's taken up leadership positions in his school. So you've done the balancing act very well. Any tips for young mom dermatologists?
Yeah, I think, as I said, Surbhi, the first point I have already given, that the initial part of your life goes slow. Because what will happen is, I've seen many youngsters. I don't know whether Svetalina is there. Are you there, Svetalina?
She's muted. Yeah, she's
Yes,
there.
ma'am, I am there.
I think Svetalina had given you this advice. That is why I mentioned her name. See, what happens is, the initial part of your life, you are getting married, okay? Or you're settling down. Even if you're not getting married, you have children, that is the time when you have it. And you also see some of your peers doing extremely well. So don't get bogged down by that, okay? The priority at that point of time, at least the first 2 or 3 years of your child's life, should be that you have to be around. So if you are it's perfectly okay if you have a 9 to 5, job.
Yeah.
And even if you're back, take a lighter practice. If you're practicing, take a lighter practice, have a little room in the clinic, maybe where, you can be there and the nanny and the child can be there. Many of you are doing that already.
Yeah.
And even if you're there in an academic career, take it slow. You're going to be home a lot, so maybe you can just do a little writing work.
Yeah.
Don't take up too much. Do not stress, please. Again, I'm saying that you've not got the scholarship in the first 2 or 3 years of your life. You can do it later. Maybe you can even do it unpaid. Dermatology is going to give us money. If you're a good professional, you will get money. Do not worry about that. You will get that. So take it slow. Take an easy practice, or take a 9 to 5 job where you can be back in the evening. So that is it. I don't think I balanced it so well. I did have, a girl Friday to help me out. She was extremely good.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I gave her space. Many of you know that.
Yeah.
And I think my son was very well behaved, at least as a small baby. So I have to give him credit that he balanced it out, that he understood, that mom is busy. Even he was very well behaved, and he was in tandem. Whatever time we spent together, it was in learning and reading, storybooks. So spend that time fruitfully, come back to a very serious, professional career, 3 or 4 years, down the line. Don't miss out on that part.
Abhik is going to need the recording of this now. He has to know that he's got credit.
I don't know whether Reddy's team has it or not, but he was well behaved, as a baby. I can't say the same now, but yes, definitely as a baby.
Cool.
Yeah, they watch you. Children do watch you, you
Yeah,
know. So
they do.
independent moms, you know, give rise to independent children.
True. Okay, so quickly now, last but not the least, since today is Women's Day, and so today this is a IWDA program. We have a very strong WhatsApp group now, almost 190 strong members in our WDS IDS membership group as well. What does the cohesiveness of IWDA add to your life, ma'am? After this campaigning and the stressful times of the elections, what does it add to your life?
I think Surbhi and all the other, you know, ladies who are there in the group, all of you will agree that this particular IWDA has played a very important part in our life now. Now it is definitely another very important aspect of our life, because it started off as a group, you know, where we were kind of celebrating each other, but it did a lot more than that. When we were in situations where we felt we are stuck, it cheered us on. There was a lot of morale boosting which happened. And I think today it is an inseparable part of our life, because we have this wonderful group. We can always go back.
Yeah.
There is empathy, there is understanding. You know, I think all of us, you know, are loving it, like Maggie hot and sweet sauce.
Yeah.
Very integral. We have this, which nobody else has.
True. Okay, now, so moving on to this quick rapid fire session with Rashmi ma'am. These are some choices or some quick questions, and that I'm going to throw at ma'am, and ma'am is going to answer them. Ma'am, are you ready? No, you don't need to be. First one is choose, ma'am, C or LHMC.
It's very tough, actually, Surbhi, because it's like a first marriage and a second marriage. I was you know, just thinking if somebody asks me. And you know, it's like a first marriage that was really, really good professionally. MAMC is a wonderful place, one of the premier, you know, colleges of the country.
Yeah.
And I've gained a lot. I have given a lot. You know, it has been a very important part of my growth. And a lot of people I have met, they are there. A lot of colleagues, a lot of students who are still with me. MAMC will remain very important that way, but it is Karam Bhumi, and it was more like an office. And it has also given me some very bitter, very cynical memories, because you realize that you have to be with people with whom you have peace of mind. That is very important for everybody.
Very important, yeah.
If you find that your professional space is not giving you that peace of mind, it is not worth it, because it is going to lead to health issues. So it was like a good marriage gone bad towards the end.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's kind of a divorce, you know, but you have a healthy relation with the happy part, you know, of your marriage. That is how it is. But LHMC is also like home, because I started off my Delhi journey with LHMC. It's been a comfort, you know, home is sort of comfortable like home. And it's also a wonderful college, you know, it has just grown now in leaps and bounds. It probably has everything now. It has given me that extra pediatric dermatology.
Yeah.
Little bit of cosmetic dermatology, which is going on. So I think I would have gained, you know, whatever I have lost, I would be gaining, you know, some of it.
That's lovely. So during the COVID lockdown, what did you miss more, flying out or dining out?
Actually, unusually, I didn't miss any of it, because I realized that I'm quite a homebody in the end of it. You know, I think I like my couch at home, you know, and the laptop. I think it's quite nice not having to fly out, because, you know, you have to rush to the airport, you know, go through the, you know, check-ins and everything. It's nice, you know, 1 or 2 years, you know, like this is not bad.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying it from home.
A lot of us would have agreed, actually.
Yeah, I'm sure. And dining out, you can always order in, although it's not so much fun, but still you can order, you know.
So movies or OTT platforms, what makes for more fun reviewing?
Reviews can be fun both for movies and OTT platform, but I think the OTT platform is giving you much more interesting stuff now, you know, interesting out of the box stuff, which we would never be able to see in the movie theater. The best part is you can see it alone, you know. You don't have 2-3 people sitting next to you and being judgmental.
Yeah.
You can watch at your own time, you know, when maybe the house is asleep, something you can enjoy with your cup of coffee. And, you know, even if not popcorn, you know, you can enjoy it with your own homemade snack.
Yeah.
So I think OTT is more challenging, more interesting in the future.
True. Choose husband out of town or maid down with fever.
I think this is a no-brainer. Husband out of town, you know, maid down with fever is not acceptable at all. You know?
One thing in your handbag you keep forgetting to throw.
I think I have these small bottles of, hand lotions, which I'm very fond of, I'm extremely fond of sophisticated hand lotion. And those are the bottles, which keep on collecting and you have to just throw those jars out.
Spoken like a true Luke's dermatologist.
Yeah.
One quality a woman president's husband must have.
I was wondering, what actually a woman president's husband should have, besides tenacity and resilience. Yes, one thing he should have is a very good dress sense.
Oh, okay.
Because he's likely to be photographed, a lot more.
Okay.
So he has to get used to that. So I think he has to, have a good dress sense, a good hairstyle, everything like that. So I think if my husband is hearing, he should know that.
Trust ma'am to come up with the most hatke answers, Okay, so this is my favorite now. Choose your Lifetime Achievement Award. Teacher par excellence, clinician par excellence, best mentor or best IIDVL president.
I hope some of the people from IIDVL are hearing, because I have not got any of these awards, I would have loved to say teacher par excellence, but I think award or no award, I have enjoyed all these parts, so that is more important. I may not have got the award, but maybe I've enjoyed a lot more than people who have the awards. Right now, the challenging one is the IIDVL president, because that is really, really challenging. So if possible, yes, the best IIDVL president ever,
So this recording needs to go out to a lot of people now. Abhik, sir, and now IIDVL as well.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true.
So ma'am, as always, I have had super fun and a very, very delightful conversation with you as always. These are my prized possessions.
Yeah,
and I love displaying them always.
So colorful. Yeah.
Yeah. And thank you so much, ma'am, for sharing such valuable pieces of your life with us. And always fun to speak with you.
Because I've always enjoyed some of these interviews, and I've really seen Surbhi, evolve. She was a very quiet person as a resident. So it's great to see, that she's the one, taking interviews and stuff like that. It's so much fun when you see somebody grow to the stature, of a professor or something like that. Makes you feel it's very worthwhile. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you. And thank IWDA and Dr. Reddy's also for having us and conducting such a lovely program. Thanks, Dr. Snehal. Thank you.
Before we close, I would first and foremost, Dr. Surbhi, I need to thank you. What a lovely session. I can say really this coffee table discussion with Dr. Rashmi was really something out of the box, and we have come to know, all of us have come to know Dr. Rashmi very well. I think her values, her goals, her life, personal, professional, and also her role as a mentor, as a leader, excellent. Thank you very much, Dr. Surbhi and Dr. Rashmi for sharing all this, for all your, achievements and way forward. And before we close the session, I'd also like to thank Dr. Richa for moderating the panel discussion in a very nice way, in a very wonderful way, that all the key messages were very well percolated across all the delegates who have attended this. And my heartfelt thank you to all my panelists, to start with Dr. Sonali, Dr. Rashmi, then we have Dr. Pooja, Dr. Shwetalina, Dr. Jasmine, Dr. Sudhavani, and everyone, to make this session very interesting and sharing your personal experiences regarding management, newer concepts of female pattern of hair loss. The trichology with management, then after that, the oral minoxidil, everything has been very well appreciated by everyone who attended this session.
In fact, there's a lot more unanswered. We can always come back to it in Vodacon. That is the good part, Richa.
Yes,
so a session should always make you wanting more, actually. You should leave at a point when people want more, like an Amir Khan movie, you wanted to come.
Absolutely. Very well said, Dr. Rashmi. So on behalf of Dr. Reddy, I thank you everyone for making this session very interactive. And on this Women's Day, I can say giving a feast of knowledge to all of us. So thank you very much. And we look forward for active participation, even I can say for other programs also. And we will do that. And this is not the end. This is the beginning for a new chapter. Thank you.
Yes, even I think we need to tell them that, 12th of March is the next program. For those of you who are tuned in, it will be on female genital dermatosis. And again, there'll be a coffee program. This time it will be Dr. Rasya Dixit, with Dr. Maya Vedamurthy and Dr. T.S. Vidya. So please stay tuned. I'd like to thank Dr. Richa, Ujja Sharma. She's done a wonderful job as usual. And she's also managed to look very good while doing it. So did
Thank you.
everybody was looking very good because you have to speak well and you have to look so good, And also to the Dr. Reddy's team, which is there. I've always given you a hard time because that is what, we stand for, perfection. We may try to make it, better and better. But I think it's been a good beginning and we should be doing well in the other programs also. With that, good night. Please do have dinner at your own places. Thank you.
Good night, ma'am.
Good night, ma'am. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thanks all doctors.
Thank
Thank
you
you so
very
much.
Thank
We
you.
just
It's a
take a
pleasure.
picture, stay tuned, we take a picture, or you can take a screenshot.
I have already taken and it posted in Facebook.
Okay, that's great. Thanks to the audience. Thanks for staying in, They were a committed audience, till the very end. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Bye.
Thank you. Good
Bye.
night, everyone. Good night. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Snehal.
Thank you. हो गया.
हो गया. Thanks, Kirti sir.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye.
Bye.